You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to Thursday Night AMP, right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Stevie J. Two co-hosts with me on the line to open the show tonight. We've got some sad news to talk about, but first let me introduce my co-hosts for the evening, starting with Jason Harland, a.k.a. Great Sudoku.
Good evening, Angry Marks. We do have some sad news indeed.
Also joining us, one of our favorite guests on this show, pretty much a regular co-host at this point, it's Abbey.
Good evening, everybody.
Thanks for being here again, and it's unfortunate that it's sad news tonight, but I think you're eminently qualified to talk about his history, as is Jason, so let me get your thoughts first on the passing of an ECW legend, a hardcore wrestler, Axl Rotten.
It's sad. I mean, anytime anybody in the business passes away, it's sad. Some people more than others. He had a long history with substance abuse and had been having medical problems lately, and he sent out an odd sounding last tweet this morning, so they're saying it could be an accidental overdose or suicide, but either way, it's horrible.
Yeah, his final tweet read, "The way I do things may not be the way you do things, but you will find out there is only one way, my way, hashtag Axl's truth."
Although actually it said my way, which was kind of telling in a way. It was almost foreshadowing.
That's true. Well, Jason, glad you jumped in there because before I say anything, I want you to say what you feel because you're a diehard ECW fan and you saw him at many of those shows when he was at his peak.
Exactly, yeah. And Axl Rotten may not have been the best technical wrestler in the world, but I had worlds of respect for guys like Axl Rotten and Balls Mahoney. I was fans of those tag teams. I mean, you've got guys in ECW who weren't the best wrestlers like Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman who were just kind of like, they sucked. They had a gimmick of like using weapons in the case of the Sandman. But in the case of somebody like Axl Rotten, I mean, this is a legitimate tough guy that if somebody clotheslined him to the ground, I can believe he would actually stand up after that and keep fighting. And that was what I liked about Axl Rotten, just the fight that he had. And of course there's the famous Taipei death match that he had with Ian Rotten, where they did the Jean-Claude Van Damme gimmick of taping up their fists and dipping the taped fists into broken glass and putting on one of the bloodiest matches that ECW had, where Todd Gordon came out and tried to stop it, but was taken to the back, and they did go on with the match. But yeah, I guess what really stands out, one of my favorite moments, just because this is what ECW was, came from Guilty as Charged 1999. There was a tag team match going on between Danny Doring and Roadkill taking on the FBI, and for about 10 minutes, Little Guido was doing his little strut thing, and they weren't really doing much with the other team. They'd locked up and push each other to the corner, and then the AC/DC music just hits, and Axl Rotten grabs the mic and says, yeah, this is beginning to look like a homosexual dance party. It's time to introduce this to be what we call a three-way dance. They come into the ring with the chairs, and they end up winning the match. But that will always stick out in my mind as one of the highlights from Axl Rotten's career in ECW.
Kind of weird that he uses a homophobic slur, and that's one of your memories of him, but it was a politically incorrect environment, and ECW relished and cherished that fact.
It was a different time then, and yeah, just kind of that gimmick. I mean, because it did look like a homosexual dance party with the way, Tracy Smothers was doing his over-the-top, fake Italian thing, and Little Guido was doing his over-the-top paisano gimmick. And then you had Danny Doring and Roadkill out there, and just the way it kind of turned into a dance-off with Danny Doring and Little Guido, and then, these two chair-swinging freaks come to the ring and saying, yeah, we're gonna put an end to this dancing, it's time for some chairs.
Well, I guess so, and it turned out to be the right decision, because it was what the fans wanted to see, and it made for a memorable moment for you and for everybody else that was watching it then live in the building or later on tape, but I've tried to find words when somebody passed away is difficult at best, but I'm going to start by saying that Axl was a guest on the Undisputed Wrestling show last year, and Abbey already mentioned that he was having some severe health problems, and part of the reason that he was on the show and on a lot of other shows around that time, summer of last year, was that he was trying to raise money to get some much-needed spinal surgery because his years of injuries had left him wheelchair-bound. And he was still fighting. He still had a lot of heart, and he still thought he could get up and walk again, but he couldn't come up with the money for the surgery on his own. And one of the things that blew me away around that time when it happened was how so many wrestlers came out of the woodwork to say thank you to Axel and to show their support. Chris Jericho alone gave him like $2,000 out of his own pocket. And nobody made him do that. Nobody has to do that. But this is the amount of respect that the boys in the business had for Axel for all the years of dues he'd paid and all the war wounds that he had. And that just shows you what kind of person Axel, a.k.a. Brian Knighton, was.
Yeah, some guys leave a mark not necessarily for all the accolades they get in the ring, but the kind of person they are outside of it.
He had that in spades. I don't think anybody that knew him personally had an unkind word for him. And you might think that his feud with Ian Rotten would be the exception to that, but in truth, those guys couldn't have done what they did to each other in the ring if they didn't have the deepest of respect, because they had to trust each other that much to do the violent things that they did.
Yeah, not kill each other or maim each other.
And it was Axel Rotten who had trained Ian Rotten in getting into the business, so there was that. And yeah, there was some bad blood, so to speak, but yeah, there was also some, I guess, lost camaraderie at that point. But they would end up getting back together briefly before he teamed with Balls Mahoney. In 1996, I think they reunited in ECW very briefly, and then in 97, Axel started teaming with Balls Mahoney.
Right.
But yeah, that's the Type A death match. That was kind of that was kind of like to 90s ECW what the cage match was to 70s and 80s wrestling. That was kind of the feud ender right there.
And as Abbey said, they had to have that trust in each other not to maim each other. They put their bad blood aside to shed blood together. So, yeah, we don't have any additional details beyond what we've already reported so far. He was found in a hotel room in Baltimore, Maryland. He had one last cryptic tweet / Facebook message that syndicated both places, and whatever the cause, whether it was accidental overdose or intentional, it doesn't even matter because it's another wrestler taken far too young. He was only 44 years old, and for most of us doing the show, we're pretty close to that age too.
Yeah, I'm within like half a decade of that age, so that's kind of scary knowing somebody that's kind of within my generation has passed away.
Yeah, I'm just a few years removed from that, so I'm not planning to be dead at 44. I intend to be kicking for many more years to come, God willing, but you never know. It's kind of sad to talk about this in general because after just doing the Matt Mania podcast with Megaran earlier today, I had to confront the fact that a lot of the hardcore champions we were talking about from WWF are no longer with us. Guys like Crash Holly and Big Boss Man. I mean, I've known all along they've been gone, but when you go back and you watch those old matches from the late 90s, like just, I was talking off the air before we started recording, like I was watching old RVD stuff, He's still with us, thank God, but so many of those guys that the term hardcore is synonymous with in the 90s and the early 2000s, they aren't around now.
Mike Awesome, Bam Bam Bigelow, yeah, just more to rattle off a few there.
Yeah. I guess that broaches a larger subject, and given that Axel / Brian had so many health problems, and so many of these guys that did the hardcore style died young, is it a better world for professional wrestling now that hardcore is no longer mainstream? Do we feel like this is for the better, not just for the health of the wrestlers, but for their life longevity? Abbey, I'll start with you on that.
I'm not so sure that it was so much to do with the hardcore style in the ring as it was to do with the hardcore style outside the ring.
The lifestyle.
Yeah, the lifestyle. These days you don't hear as much about that as you did in the 80s and 90s, and guys seem to be a little bit more self-aware and responsible and under the realization that, hey, my life in the ring isn't my life, period.
And I think whether we want to admit it or not, there's also a significant shadow looming over their heads in form of WWE drug testing that if you try to live a hardcore lifestyle and you work for the biggest company out there, and I'm sure the others do test, I'm not implying that they don't, but if you're working for the biggest, you know you're going to be tested, and if you're trying to live that lifestyle, you're not going to stay employed, not for very long.
And I do want to address your question, Stevie. I do think wrestling is better off now that hardcore isn't mainstream, because when WWF at the time, introduced the people you were talking about, your Crash Hollies and your hardcore title and your 24/7, it was almost a cartoon caricature of what things like ECW and FMW at the time were. I mean, it was so antiseptic and clean hardcore. Like, someone would get hit with a garbage can, but this was the most pristine looking garbage can made out of aluminum foil that you've ever seen. Like, it didn't look like it would hurt to get hit by this garbage can, where you have a garbage can thrown into the ring at an ECW show. It's this old rusty looking thing full of hockey sticks and other weapons and plunder that are going to be used. And yeah, I just don't think the mainstream handled hardcore right. And it's not like hardcore died. It's like I can go online and I can watch current matches from Big Japan with Abdullah Kobayashi getting light tubes bashed over his head, or him bashing them over his own head or eating them. Hardcore is still alive if you want to go out there and find it. And hardcore has always been something more for the niche audience, and I'm glad it's back kind of in that niche where it belongs.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said antiseptic, because that was the word I was looking for while talking to Random, and I couldn't find it. But I did use the word cartoony, because I said, we're talking about WWF's version of hardcore, and sometimes it just looks like a cartoon compared to the ECW stuff that they stole the idea from and tried to run with. And the example I used was a hardcore match where Raven was being choked with a garden hose, and I guess if you did it right, you could choke somebody out with a garden hose, but it just looked so silly the way WWF did it. Like, really? You're choking somebody with a garden hose? Come on.
Yeah, well, go to a garden hose.
Yeah, sponsors wouldn't probably really go for, a dog chain. They kind of had to work with what they had. Well, you want barbed wire and shit, go to CZW these days and watch that, or like you said, Big Japan.
Not like our boy Tomoaki Hanma back in the day used to deal with, putting the barbed wire on his head. Good times.
Well, since you brought up Tomoaki Hanma, I'm going to use that as a segue, as an excuse to shift the conversation away from the passing of Axl Rotten, may he rest in peace, to discussion of, I guess a happier note, but a sadder note, because I want Shinsuke Nakamura to succeed in WWE, but I'm sad he's leaving New Japan. So it's like hopeful and regret at the same time. I hope I'm making sense here, Abby. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I cried during the whole last show. I did. I was crying before the whole damn thing even started. Yeah, I think we're all, everybody who's a fan of his knows that this is one of his dreams, to come over here and make it big. And today word came out that he signed a 3-year deal with WWE, and he's going to have new music. We're not sure about a name, but we all want him to succeed as fans because we respect him and everything he's done to get to this point. On the flip side of that, you look at WWE and their history, and it's kind of like, oh God, this does not bode well. So it's kind of, being very trepidatious right now that, he's here and he's either at the Performance Center or will be in the next couple of days, and the whole process is starting, and it's just you're kind of wary about the whole thing. Kind of let's see what happens and see where it goes. He got a really good send-off from New Japan. It was bittersweet, and now it's kind of like, okay, let's see what they do with him.
Well, let's bring.
Yeah, I like the send-off that he got from New Japan as well, that he got to be he didn't get the pinfall, but he got to be involved with the finish, nailing Shibata with his Bamaye and Ishii doing the brainbuster to get the pin. But it really stuck out to me that both Ishii and Okada, his tag partners for the match, his fellow Chaos stablemate, mates, came out wearing Shinsuke Nakamura shirts. The crowd erupted into a Shinsuke, Shinsuke as soon as his entrance music started playing. And at the end of it all, like Chaos, the entire Chaos crew comes out, and this would include, the fringe guys like Kazushi Sakuraba and Jado. were out there, and there was not a dry eye among them. It's every member of Chaos, including Shinsuke, was tearing up that this was his final match in New Japan, and it was just very powerful to see that going on in the ring, and very powerful to hear from friends like Abbey and others who were live tweeting that, that they were tearing up at that same moment too, that it was just, a very powerful moment to be watching and a part of history to be watching there.
It was real, and you could tell that it was real, and that's something that is missing in a lot of wrestling today. You don't get those real moments. So when they happen, they're kind of special.
And it's a sad day for New Japan, but it was also a respectful way for him to go out on a high note, and to see that they had that respect for him is part of the reason that I think he has a chance. I know WWE has screwed up these things in the past, but a guy who engenders that kind of respect in the New Japan locker room is likely to engender that kind of respect anywhere he goes, whether it's Ring of Honor, WWE, Lucha Underground. It doesn't matter. If you're that kind of person and you put in that kind of work and you have the quality matches in front of the screen and you're that beloved behind the scenes, you've got a good chance of making it.
Is it a bad omen that he's going to be debuting on April 1st?
I consider it a good omen since I'm going to be there.
Okay. I guess it's better than the Ides of March. I guess it's better than March 15th, but April Fool's Day just kind of seems, especially for a company that doesn't have a very good track record in handling Japanese talent, April 1st seems like a very suspicious start date.
Well, if he was debuting on the main roster, maybe, but he's going to be in NXT. I think he'll be fine during that transition period. But, if they change his name coming up to the main roster and, we've got Suzuki Samurai heading up in there, it's just not going to be good.
Oh, no. I don't want that. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm just going to cross my fingers that you're wrong, Abby. I don't want that.
I'm thinking they might let him keep his name.
This has been
because
something.
I hope so.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking, it's a very well-known name. It's all over the place. That's how he's known. I'm thinking that kind of like with AJ, they might let him keep his own name.
I've debated this in a couple of YouTube comment sections about him, and I want him to keep the name. I'm just, like you, Abby, I'm suspicious when it comes to them, because some guys they let keep their name, and some guys they don't. Like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, they let him keep the name. They were happy to let him keep the name. But those guys had also worked on the North American scene for many, many years under those names. So they probably just threw in the towel and said, we can't call him Joe Samoa-san or Styles AJ-san. They're not going to buy that. So.
Yeah, and looking at it, Kana came in and she got to pick her name. She picked Asuka. Mm-hmm. Kenta came in and he got to pick his name, Hideo Itami. Devitt came in, he got to pick his name. So maybe they'll let him pick his own name if they don't let him keep his actual name.
Right, and then at least he could pick something that would fit his character and would get over with the crowd. And I can accept it if he chooses the name himself. But if they give him something stupid like Hirohito, I'm going to be so mad.
I think everybody will be.
As long as they don't call him Hiroshi Tanahashi, I'd be fine with that.
Oh, God. Oh, that was one thing that pissed me off about the end of the match, his last match, that, Tanahashi had to jump in there and get in the middle of it. At the end when Kenny Omega came out. What happened, and at the end of the match when, after Ishii had left the ring and Okada had left the ring and Goto and Shibata had left, Kenny Omega came out to say, hey, it's great. This is your final match. It's your graduation. But the real reason you're leaving is because you're afraid of me. And then who jumps in the ring but Tanahashi? And he gets on the microphone and has to announce that, I am X, which just pissed me off in general because I didn't want him to be X. But, it's like jump in there and grab the spotlight from this guy that is supposed to be getting a send-off, and you have to jump in there and get your 2 cents worth in. That, for some reason, just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, it just seemed very, very, very Hiroshi Tanahashi-like, as you called him. Hiroshi John Cena-Hashi-like there to.
And it was like very random.
I mean, that kind of put a sour note on it too, and the timing of it was wrong. I mean, you could have waited until, I don't know. Is he defending it on the first Power? Is the match on the first or the second New Beginning show?
I think it's the first one.
Okay, if it's the first one, yeah. I mean, I guess you could have done it earlier in the night then or something, but yeah, I didn't like that. I mean, there were two things I didn't like. One was the timing with Nakamura's last match and having Tanahashi interject himself there to kind of say, hey, I'm going to upstage you here because you're leaving. Not only that, but it kind of crushed another rumor that at least smart marks on this side of the pond were kind of hoping for, that Elgin would be X, or the to-be determined opponent to face Omega for the vacant Intercontinental title that Nakamura vacated on his way out.
I think that probably would have been the better route for New Japan to go, especially with Ring of Honor coming in later on this month to do their shows. I think it would have been nice to work Elgin in there somehow instead of going back to, Tana. Who I know is their, I know he's their face and he's the ace and he's the stupid-headed, all that good happy horse shit. But, thinking outside the box sometimes does not hurt.
No, yeah, it would have been nice to see something different there, to see Elgin instead of going back to Tanahashi, who kind of lost that ace title when he lost to Okada at the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom 10. But yeah, they're kind of going back to that ace card now, because instead of the 5-headed dragon they were in 2014, they're now like a 2-headed dragon, trying to bring up guys like Hiroki Goto, who the fans just boo mercilessly every time he came into the ring in that last match Nakamura had, and guys like Omega, who's transitioning from the junior heavyweight division to the heavyweight division. So there's some unproven commodities there, but they're taking on guys who are proven commodities, so I guess we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to say this, though, with Omega's new gear and Tana's new gear and the stupid hair between both of them, for that alone and the crimes against fashion, this should be an interesting match to watch.
They should have a hair versus hair match.
God, Omega's hair, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Tana's hair is just,
you need hedge clippers to get Omega's haircut.
And then those wild-ass prints that they're wearing, it's like, what the hell is going on?
No, if Tanahashi made a shampoo, you'd buy it.
No, I would not.
You want the Tana hair.
I would not buy Tana shampoo. It would not happen. I won't even buy a Tana bear. I would just buy the Tana bear to cut its ponytail off.
They could call it Tanaha Shine.
Oh, good Lord.
WrestleCrap crickets go off in the background. So yeah, that was kind of what came out of New Japan when we had Tanahashi announcing that he was X. We had Nakamura having his send-off with Chaos.
I don't even remember the
and we
rest
got
of
to
the card.
see, what's his name? Hirai Kawato, a new young lion.
Oh, yeah. The two new young lions had matches. I can't remember the other one's name.
So David Finlay actually got to pick up a win in this one.
I know, that was so great.
I got to see him win, and I thought Jay White was going to win, but they had Yoshihashi go over him. But there was a really awesome sequence where Jay White transitioned like 4 or 5 different submission holds without letting go, working over various parts of the body, and Yoshihashi was really fighting to get to the ropes and really had to fight his way over there and get out. And I tweeted, Jay White that was awesome, and he gave me a like on that, so that was pretty cool.
He's going to be big as soon as he breaks out of the young lion mold and, gets into main roster status. I mean, are him and Finlay going to have to do these excursions like Yohi and Sho are doing now?
No, they're down in Mexico right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Just keep them. It would be nice to keep them together. Keep them as a tag team or something.
Mm-hmm.
Have them form a stable. Bring Juice Robinson in or something.
Oh God, no, not him.
We are not young lions.
I like Juice, but not so much in that role.
I guess not. We got to see Bad Luck Fale pick up a win in this card too. Him and your favorite wrestler, the Sleaze, took on your favorite wrestler, one of them anyway, Toru Yano and Kazushi Sakuraba, kind of the B team of Chaos, taking on a B team from Bullet Club. And nice to see Fale going over, but I mean, yeah, I guess we'll have to see where they go with this whole Bullet Club and what's left of Bullet Club, and are they going to remain as a faction, or are they going to split, or what's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking with the Bucks and Omega being this quote unquote elite now, that I don't know where that's going to leave Fale and Tama Tonga. Hopefully Tama
But
gets
yeah,
the damn singles run, finally.
we just haven't seen the Bucks back in non-Bullet Club gear and know what's going on with that. But we got to see Captain fucking New Japan eat a pin again. That was kind of a given once you saw he was in the matchup there.
He always eats the pin. I think the day that he actually wins something, hell will freeze over, literally.
It'll be like Hanma winning a match in the G1 Climax. Everybody will be like, "What?"
Yeah, the fact that he beat Ishii still just bugs me to this day.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, Jason. Go ahead.
The anti-Goldberg streak there. Yeah, we had Kushida, Captain New Japan, and Ryosuke Taguchi taking on Evil Bushi and Tetsuya Naito, and I think the big surprise of this was that nobody got unmasked, especially Captain New Japan.
Oh yeah, Naito seemed to be over his mask aversion.
He was tranquilo for a change.
Yes, your favorite person in the whole wide world.
Yeah, he wasn't overly offensive in this match. It's like when he's not trying to drive home the point that he's a heel. It's like there's healing and there's overhealing, and he overheals. Was this the last match for Anderson and Omega, or for Anderson and Gallows rather, in New Japan? Or do they have more dates to work?
No, they're facing Makabe and Hanma for the titles. I think on Valentine's Day. I think it's the Nagata show.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they'll be taking those to WWE and dropping them in the trash. Somehow I don't see that booking happen. I don't see Guido booking it that way. It just doesn't seem to be happening there.
No. I think he prefers to keep those titles right where they are.
Yeah, as we've talked about on previous podcasts, there really needs to be some new tag teams either brought in from outside or brought in from Noah or put together, because there's just really, outside of Ten Cozy, there just really isn't any heavyweight tag team contenders, with Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson leaving for the titles held by Tomoaki Hanma and Togi Makabe.
I don't know what they're going to do with that. It'll be interesting to watch through the next couple of months and see how New Japan rearranges some things.
I mean, unless you want to bring the Briscoes in full time and have them, go for both the 6-man titles and the heavyweight tag team titles, that might be an option to go with too.
I don't really think that would work too well.
They could be players in the game, at least. they could fill out the division. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see.
But Mark would end up.
I'd rather see Killer Elite Squad and the rest of Suzuki-gun come back over from Noah, who's drawing regularly like below 200 people at their shows. So.
Bushi Road wasn't bankrolling them. I don't see how the hell they're still in business.
Yeah, I don't see what the point of them still being in business is. I mean, I don't know if at this point would it be more lucrative to keep running both companies or just to kind of fold all the Noah guys into New Japan?
I think that would make more business sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, granted the roster was pretty packed as it was, but there have been some big name departures.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Nakamura's headed here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
He is headed to WWE. What do you think of how the WWE has handled AJ Styles so far? And you can weigh in on this too, Stevie.
I'll let Abby go first.
I don't like all this talk of AJ every other sentence he says of being, I deserve to be here. And nothing matters outside of WWE, and treating him like a rookie, and that he's, been lost in the wilderness all these years. There are some guys you can't logically do that with.
Yeah, I have a hard time when they use the word rookie on commentary. Like, excuse me, like I haven't just watched him in New Japan and Ring of Honor for the last couple of years, and in TNA for the last decade before that, and in WCW before that. And they even put the WCW videos of him with Air Paris up on YouTube. It's like, wait a minute, you can't tell me he's a rookie. Maybe he was a rookie in 2000, but he's not now.
No, I mean, he is. They have to understand, and I know that WWE hates to recognize anything outside of their company, but that IWGP title is probably the most prestigious in the wrestling world. And I know that WWE doesn't like to be called wrestling, and they prefer sports entertainment. But when you bring somebody of AJ's stature in, You can't treat them like, hey, this is somebody we just called up from NXT.
No.
It doesn't work. And having him work that match with Jericho, which in my mind just was not good.
Yeah, well, we could still agree to disagree about that. I think it's a program that has legs, and I think it's going all the way to Mania. So even if
Yeah, it is.
Even if the first match wasn't everything you wanted it to be, I feel like they can get there.
His match with Miz tonight on SmackDown was better than the one with Jericho.
Well, maybe that's just him getting into the swing of things with the WWE style of working.
Oh, my problem wasn't with AJ in that match with Jericho. It was with Jericho. Jericho seemed off like half a step, and it didn't make either one of them look good.
Right. I accepted that was your analysis of it, but I have a hard time thinking of Jericho as being a half step off. I admitted it before, I'll say it again, but I have a bias on my part that Jericho is so good in the ring that if something's going wrong, I can't blame either one of them. I'll blame the booking, I'll blame the timekeeper, I'll blame dust in the atmosphere, I'll blame anybody but Jericho or Styles.
But that whole Miz TV segment just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. AJ is not best on the microphone, like by 150,000 miles. He has a rather interesting accent, although I think that redneck is one of the original Romance languages. But, let him talk. Let him get more than 2 words out on a microphone.
Well, to the Miz's credit, not that I like giving him credit, but if it rubs you the wrong way when he's on Miz TV, that's kind of what it's supposed to do. You're not supposed to enjoy Miz TV.
No, and my whole thing was I wasn't sure if that was, a burial on WWE's part or an attempted burial, or if that was their way to get AJ over with their fan base.
I would tend to think it's the latter. They're using Miz to make people like AJ more because they view Miz as a total tool.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't want a guy to get over simply because you hate the person he's in the ring with.
Yeah, but unfortunately that's the simplistic way WWE books.
It works. I mean, there's also a faction of fans in the ring that when The Miz is, saying, he has whatever, indie-rific or whatever, indie darling, I think was the words that he used. But there's a contingent of fans that are going to start booing and cheering for AJ Styles because they are the internet smart marks, and they're going to start their cheer. The other fans in attendance are just going to see that as, oh, well, they're just kind of healing on The Miz, so let's join in and hate on The Miz along with all these other guys around us that are chanting. And I think that's a good dynamic to have.
It's got to work better than... Oh, go ahead, Abby.
No, I was just saying it does work, but it's not something that WWE should be depending on with certain people. Because they have to understand that people know these guys.
Yeah, Styles does
backfire.
not need that type of push to get over. As you were saying before, the WWE, I guess it was NXT when they had Jushin Liger come over and they did stuff on Finn Balor and we're talking about his time in New Japan. But yeah, as recently as 2015, AJ Styles was the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. This is not a guy that needs to, get himself over by going over some Goonies and Stooges and people like The Miz who are completely irrelevant, not doing shit in the ring. I mean, this is a guy you could put in there against somebody like Jericho or against somebody even like Ambrose, who I'm glad is getting some cheers and maybe in the limelight here soon, or against a guy like Kevin Owens and just let the ring work speak for itself. And I think the fans are so hungry for something like that. I mean, you could see that when he came into the Royal Rumble and the AJ Styles chants erupted.
Yeah, but WWE isn't about ring work. I don't even know what WWE is about.
What's trending on Twitter, apparently.
Yeah, or Total Divas, which was another thing on Monday that just pissed me off. The whole Brie, Bella, Charlotte thing. Like, oh, let's take Sasha out of the picture and put Brie in there because it's a good tie-in with Total Divas and because we feel sorry for Nikki.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever watch Total Divas, ever.
No.
I'll watch Sunny Side Up, but I won't watch Total Divas.
Oh, God. Oh, you poor, poor, pitiful man. I read a couple of, somebody had either gone out on the Wrestling Observer forums or Reddit and watched it and did a play-by-play, and I was going to say blow-by-blow, but, I wasn't. That would be like a pun intended there.
Yeah, that's why I'm groaning over here at what you just said.
And, I read like the first 3 sentences is like, no, I cannot do this. No.
I can only think
Yeah,
of one example of anybody actually getting through one of those, and it's Blade Braxton reviewing One Night in China.
you
I'm
may
not
have
sure
to
which one would be
redo his gimmick
worse.
for the Sunny Side Up here.
I believe Sonny actually proposed doing one with China. That would be the worst of all worlds.
Yeah, that broke on TMZ yesterday. Like, hey, I'll challenge you to a sex off. Who the fuck wants to see that? Except some jackass who living in his mama's basement. Seriously.
That reminds me of that episode
people
of
in their
Family Guy where
mama's
they're all...
basements have better taste than that.
I would hope so.
Yeah, China and Sunny porn reminds me of that episode of Family Guy where they're all sitting around with the syrup of Ipecac and eating pies. That's what that would be like.
Who can puke last? Is that what you're saying?
It would cause everybody to puke, yeah, and whoever puked last would be the winner.
You know what was honestly funnier than that? When they did the time travel episode where everything went in reverse and they had to relive that scene. That was even funnier watching the whole thing go backwards.
Oh, yeah, they did a callback to that, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And then they had the chicken fight backwards that undestroyed the whole city. The only thing better than that for me, a huge sci-fi geek mark right now, is the episode of Red Dwarf where Rimmer and the cat end up on backwards Earth.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, the fabulous Reverse Brothers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And they just wow the crowd by eating an egg, and they're all in awe, like, oh my god, you didn't do that in reverse. How did you do that? And nobody listening now knows what we're talking about except you and me, Jason. Uh-oh. Did we lose Jason again?
I think so.
All I'm hearing is beeps and boops. Maybe he went to backwards Earth.
That or he went to back to watch that movie again. Who the hell knows?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I was just about to hang up and call you back, but you came back in at the last second.
I said it's not a barroom brawl, it's a barroom tidy on Rumble.
Damn it, you're going to make me pull out my Red Dwarf DVDs now and go back and watch that again.
You know, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, Rimmer, but you're such a smeghead.
Oh my god.
I mean, that show is what got me into making my own Vindaloo, so.
Oh yeah, I formed an appreciation for curry just because of how fondly Lister always talked about it on the show. I'm like, if curry's so good, I gotta try it for myself. Holy shit, this shit really is good.
Exactly. I mean, I've got Trinidad Scorpion Butch tea peppers in my cupboard that are so hot I only use them for making curry because they would make anything else just too hot.
Indeed. Oh, the first time I ordered a lamb vindaloo at an Indian restaurant, it was because of Red Dwarf, and I had no idea what I was in for, and I felt it coming and going. That's all I can say about that on this show.
Or what's that one where they turn Lister, I guess it was DNA, where they turn him into the miniature RoboCop that has to fight the curry monster.
Oh, right, yeah. Wasn't that the one where the monster is a polymorph that keeps shape-shifting into different things?
That was a different episode. This was one where they used a DNA splicer on one of Lister's curries, and the DNA splicer turned it into a monster.
Right, okay. But
he says, I'm being chased by a psychopathic curry man, and I always wanted to splice that over footage of Chris Daniels, but just never did.
You know, that was part of the reason that I appreciated Curry Man when he was in TNA was because of Red Dwarf. So every time he said, he's hot, he's spicy, he's Curry Man, I was cheering for it just because of that.
Curry Man was awesome.
I actually got to see him do the Curry Man gimmick live at a TNA house show here, so that made my, bucket list kind of thing for me. Like, nobody else would care about that, but seeing Christopher Daniels as Curry Man at a house show was definitely bucket list for me.
You know, it was good to see TNA revive that. I mean, I had heard about that in like the late 90s, early 2000s going on in Toriumon, but I had seen clips of it, but I mean, this was in the proto-internet days before there were things like YouTube and Daily Motion and cell phones that could take, really good videos. So I'd seen a few clips here and there of Curry Man, but had never really seen a full Curry Man match. So it was nice when he did come to TNA to be able to see the Curry Man gimmick in all its wonderful, hot, spicy, dancing splendor.
Yeah. When you talk about before phones could take video, go back and watch like the very, very oldest videos on the YouTube AngryMarks.com channel. You'll see what those videos look like with the very first phones that could record video. They're pretty bad.
I'm guessing it had to be below at least 480p or much, much lower than that.
Well below. I was recording these videos with a Verizon NV phone.
Was that a flip phone?
It was a phone with a slide-out keyboard that you could use to text.
Back in the days before smartphones.
Well, it was a smartphone, but it was a really, really dumb smartphone.
Was it an Android?
It wasn't even Android. It was Verizon NV. I can't explain it any way other than that.
It was just old.
I think it ran Android software, but you couldn't download anything to run on it because it couldn't do anything.
It was a step up from the phone Neo had in the Matrix, but not by much.
Not by much. Sorry, we've gone way afield here. Let's get back to New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Okay, maybe now I'll understand what y'all are talking about. Because y'all completely lost me. I think I understood Curry and Christopher Daniels in that whole little segment y'all just did.
I'm going to have to put Red Dwarf on a USB stick and mail it out to Abbey so she can get caught up here.
Absolutely. Let's start her with the first season, though. We got to take her through Rimmer figuring out that he's a hologram and being in total denial about it.
And making a clone of himself.
Yes.
Alright, so you wanted to talk some more New Japan.
Yes, I don't think we covered everything from the Shinsuke Nakamura farewell show. Did we get through that whole show, or did we leave out a few things?
Let's see, we got through most of it. I believe we got through. I don't believe we left. I mean, there was a match between Yuji Nagata, Manabu Nakanishi, and Tiger Mask taking on Tenkozy and Jushin Liger. We had that match.
Everybody's favorite crazy uncles. I'm serious. I want a reality show with Nagata and, Nakanishi just screaming at kids to get off their lawn. Just something, because they're just so ornery.
Grumpiest old men. New Japan's grumpy men.
That would work.
And grumpy old men.
I've gotten to where I've started. They do segments on cooking shows, which I have started scouring YouTube for, that are just, I have no clue what's going on, but they're hilarious.
Nakanishi and Nagata.
Nakanishi does them. Kojima does them. Tenzon's done a couple. They're just, I don't know what the hell's going on, but they're funny. So the other day there were a couple of them. I think it was Kushida and Taguchi making tofu, and it's you don't know what the hell's going on or why they're doing it, but just watching them is hilarious.
I really missed Taguchi's King Tut mask. That was awesome.
Oh God,
bring that back.
They're selling it on New Japan. Go out there and get you one.
I don't want to wear one. I want him to wear it.
No. I wonder who he's going to go after now, as far as mocking.
Yeah, now that Shinsuke is gone, maybe Okada. He's the only big name left, or Tanahashi.
I don't know. He did do the whole evil.
I'd like to see him mock Goto. That would be. You might see him mock Hiroki Goto. See if he can do an Ushigoroshi or a Kaiten or a Shoten or a Shoten Kai.
He might not survive that one. Goto might actually kill him, or have Shibata do it.
He could imitate Hanma and miss every headbutt he tries.
Well, no, that would mean he would have to use something other than his ass as far as offense goes.
If he could do a Kokeshi ass butt.
I think he's actually been trying to do those here lately.
Yeah, that's the only guys I can see him impersonating. I'm looking over the New Japan. Speaking of New Japan, I'm looking over the cards for the 11th and the 14th, the two new beginning shows, and it does look like we're finally going to have the Briscoes back in Japan. They're defending the never open weight 6-man titles with Toru Yano against Tamatanga, the Sleaze, and Bad Luck Fale. Should be interesting. That is a match for the 11th. That's one of the titles being defended there. The never openweight championship is also being defended on the 11th. Katsuyori Shibata taking on Tomohiro Ishii. Should be a good match.
Yes,
a good
more
rematch.
murder on television.
Yay, legal murder.
I love their matches. They're just so, Two guys literally trying to, kill each other. It's great.
And so I'm trying to remember, there was somebody who was talking to me about Ishii and Shibata saying, oh, do they always, no-sell each other's forearm shots like this? I'm like, wait till they start no-selling German suplexes and clotheslines.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait till they start no-selling those. Yeah, it's always fun when one of the newbies on Twitter follows me and starts messaging me about the matches going on. It's like, ooh, you picked a fun one to message here. And then, the main event we have on the 11th, we have the IWGP Heavyweight Championship being defended. Kazuchika Okada against Hiroaki Goto, who has somehow managed to get himself over as Mr. Uber heel in New Japan. I guess just because he's going against Okada.
That works. At least he's not, boring as watching paint dry now. There's a little bit of interest.
Yeah, he's got a place, he's got a story, he's got a function to serve other than holding the Intercontinental title for a cup of coffee. For about as long as Kalisto held the US title for about a second before he lost it and got it back again. So we do have the Bullet Club on that show too, Matt and Nick Jackson, three-way match taking on Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, and Matt Sydal and Ricochet, a three-way match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. So that will be defended too. We have Bushi, Evil, and Tetsuya Naito taking on Kushida, Juice Robinson, and Michael Elgin. Unfortunately, there's nobody for them to unmask, so maybe that's why they didn't unmask anybody in the last show. They had to get ready for a match where they can't unmask anyone.
Oh well, Naito will get over his mask problems, hopefully.
Hopefully. And we've got Tenkozy taking on Nakanishi and Nagata. We have a six-man match, Taguchi, Tiger Mask, and Liger taking on Gato, Yoshihashi, and Kazushi Sakuraba. And then opening things up on the night for the 11th, we have David Finlay taking on Jay White. Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen those two face off in a one-on-one match.
I haven't either. That should be good.
That hard to pick a winner in that one too.
I know.
So yeah, and looking at the card for the 14th, that's when we have the Tanahashi versus Omega. I really think it might have played out better to drag out, IMX until the ending of the 11th card, but whatever. So yeah, your main event on the 14th, we have Hiroshi John Cena-Hashi taking on the cleaner Kenny Omega for the IWGP Intercontinental title. We have the heavyweight tag title on the line that night. Tomoaki Hanma and Togi Makabe are going to beat Doc Gallows and the Machine Gun Carl Anderson because they're going to WWE. We have Bushi and Kushida going one-on-one for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. And then we've got a bunch of tag and multiple-man tag. We got Juice Robinson, Katsuyori Shibata, and Hiroki Goto taking on Yoshihashi, Tomohiro Ishii, and Kazuchika Okada. I guess what's left of the A-Team for Chaos. We have Jay and Mark Briscoe and Toru Yano in a non-title match, although that could be changed if they retain, taking on Tamatanga, the Sleaze, and Bad Luck Fale. We have Jay White teaming up with Michael Elgin, taking on Evil and Tetsuya Naito. We have an eight-man tag team match of Matt Sydal, Ricochet, Satoshi Kojima, and Hiroshi Tenzan taking on David Finlay, Ryusuke Taguchi, Manabu Nakanishi, and Yuji Nagata. We have a tag match, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly taking on Gato and Kazushi Sakuraba. That'll be interesting. And opening up the card there on the 14th, we have Captain Fucking New Japan, Tiger Mask, Jushin Liger. They're taking on Abbey's favorite wrestler, Cody Hall, and then the Jacksons there, the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson.
I hate Cody Hall. I hate him.
So, apparently there is still a Bullet Club, or they may be planting the seeds to disband Bullet Club in that match, but as of now, Cody Hall is still teaming with Nick and Matt Jackson anyway.
I'm waiting for them to send, Cody on an excursion to Siberia somewhere.
They could send him to that same, Walmart that they made Pitbull perform at.
Here, just send him somewhere where I don't have to see him. Quit messing up my New Japan shows with that idiot.
With that scowl of his, that pretty mug of his with that lovely scowl.
I would rather watch the Sleaze.
Speaking of the Sleaze, are they ever going to bring Mao back? It's like every time that Sleaze comes out, Mao is not with them, and I always tweet, and she'll always tweet later on, that she's appreciative of everybody wanting her to come back and that she wants to come back, but
I think they save her for the bigger shows.
it's like, though I've got a suspicion that isn't her that tweets in English, that there's somebody that tweets in English for her, but that's just my suspicion.
Oh, probably.
But yeah, it'd be nice to see Mao back, because we haven't seen Mao since... When she wasn't at Wrestle Kingdom 10, was she? No.
I think she was at the big show before Wrestle Kingdom 10.
Power Struggle?
Think so.
It just seems like a minute since we've seen Mao. We need our Mao fix, New Japan. If you're out there listening, Gato, book Mao. The fans want Mao back.
Well, she kind of makes the Sleaze palatable.
Abby wouldn't mind if you just took Cody Hall off the card and just inserted Mao in his place there.
Yeah, I'm sure that most people wouldn't hit Mao.
Nah. That is what we have in New Japan for the start of February here. Any predictions on the big title matches? Who do you think is going to be winning in the Tanahashi versus Omega match and in the Okada versus Goto match?
Okada and Tana. I can't see them pulling the trigger on Goto. It doesn't make sense right now. And I think with Nakamura leaving, have they ever had an IWGP Intercontinental Champion that wasn't Japanese?
Let's take a look. You've got me intrigued now. I actually want to research this now. IWGP Intercontinental Championship. Let's see who has held this. See if anyone has held the
8 or 9.
Who has held the big white belt that hasn't been MVP? There's a guy who wasn't.
Well, he was the inaugural one, wasn't he?
La Sombra?
That was for less than a cup of coffee. That was for a little shot of espresso.
Bad Luck Fale.
Okay, then they might go with Omega. I don't know.
So, I mean, there's been a few, but it's been few and far between, and it hasn't been for very long. I mean, this has pretty much been the Shinsuke Nakamura title for as long as Shinsuke Nakamura has been in New Japan.
I really can't see them going with Omega right now.
I can't either, which is kind of why I was hoping they would put Elgin in there, because it would be less believable that Kenny Omega could go over a big hulking guy like Michael Elgin. Boy, it's like fish or cut bait. It's like the dilemma here. With lesser of two evils, who do I want to win this one, Tanahashi or Omega? Yeah, I don't see Omega going over Tanahashi either, though it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how much value New Japan sees in Tanahashi at this point.
Well, obviously enough. I mean, I have a feeling he'll be back in there with Okada before we know it or like it or want it to happen.
Which is more out of necessity than anything
else.
I mean, if they had anybody else to throw in there with Okada, they would. And knock on wood, they'll be bringing back Suzuki-gun sometime soon, and we might see Minoru Suzuki in there with him, or Shelton Benjamin, or somebody.
Oh, I would love Mitsu in there. Yes.
Hell, I'd even take El Desperado at this point. Anybody from Suzuki can get in there.
They need a little bit of fresh blood. I've noticed that watching the cards lately. I love the shows. I love the matches. I love pretty much everybody. Yeah, hell, I'll even break down and say I respect Tanahashi. But it's like the same people over and over and over again. And kind of the same matches, too. It's like, get a little bit of fresh blood in there and shake things up a little bit.
That's kind of how I feel about the WWE, too, is, every once in a while you do need that transfusion of new blood, and I'll pose this to you, and I'll pose to Stevie, too. What do you think about what Dean Ambrose did on Raw, going up in the face of Brock Lesnar and getting F5, but perhaps, going after the title instead of Roman Reigns?
I think it's refreshing because it not only teases Fastlane, which they need to build some excitement for in a desperate way, but it's a reminder that there are things that we haven't seen. We haven't seen Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar really tear into each other. We haven't seen what that matchup would look like. It's something to get interested in, to look forward to. It is fresh blood.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
it's
not like
also
he's a
just a
newcomer coming in,
tease.
but he had,
But eventually the tease will pay off. We'll get the three-way match, and hopefully they'll get some good one-on-one time in the middle of that match.
Well, of course, when Roman is out there taking his nap that he takes during every match.
How did I know you were going to get on him for that? I knew you couldn't resist, and I'm glad you didn't.
Well, I mean, my thing is this, and I figured this out watching SmackDown's opening tonight. He's never going to grow on me. He's always going to be one of those guys that's just kind of, he's there. But if anybody thinks that he's not going to win at Fastlane and he's not going to go over Triple H at Mania, they are just crazy because that's what WWE wants.
That's what they've been working so hard for, trying to get Roman Reigns over as a face. They want him to have that big moment at WrestleMania and be crowned the new, better or worse, the new John Cena of the company.
I just don't understand why it's so hard for them to see. It's not for the best right now.
yeah, he lacks the, I mean, for all the shit that I give John Cena, at least John Cena has charisma for the little kids and the women in the audience, well, some of the women in the audience. But yeah, I mean, John Cena seems to appeal to a certain demographic where Roman Reigns just doesn't seem to appeal to anybody in the quote-unquote WWE universe.
I don't know if I can go all the way to no appeal at all, because he does get fan reactions and positive ones in certain cities at certain times. It's just nowhere near universal, and it doesn't have the 50-50 dynamic where Cena is both loved and hated, but everybody cares. Whereas with Roman Reigns, some people love him, some people hate him, but you can't make everybody care.
And I think the perfect example of that was Monday on Raw during, I guess it was the main event. I don't know. I was kind of in a haze because I had to cover the damn show. But in the main event, they cheered New Day. They really cheered Dean Ambrose, and they booed Roman Reigns.
But if you can get all the people to boo Roman Reigns, then at least it's working, even if it's not in the way that they want it to. The problem is they can't get everybody to boo him. They can get a lot of the people to boo him, even though that's not what they want. But, but they can't get 100%. To get him over, whether he's a heel or a face, whether it's by accident or by design, everybody needs to care.
But this isn't like heel heat that he's getting. This is kind of, these are the fans that would chant, change the channel at him. I mean, this isn't, we think you're a heel, so we're going to boo you. This is, you're boring. We're tired of seeing you. We're booing you because we're sick of you.
Yeah, we're not having you shoved down our throats anymore.
To be honest, that's pretty much my reaction to Triple H being on top as the champion again. It's not even that I can hate him. It's just, I don't care. It's just, why do I want to invest in this storyline? It's been done. I've seen it before. I'm not interested. Change the channel. Let's watch something else. Maybe Gotham's on.
And I think that's something that WWE just really doesn't get, that their fans aren't invested anymore.
I try to be. NXT, I can get invested in. Those are guys that I like and I can care about. But the main product, it's hard. It's a genuine effort, and it didn't used to be.
No, I mean, I tune in and I watch. I love Kevin Owens. Ambrose, he's starting to wear thin a little bit with me. Now that AJ's there, that's great. But honestly, that's about it.
What about the New Day? Do you like them?
Yeah, if they weren't walking around with dildos on their head, I might like them a little bit more. I don't know. They're starting to wear thin too because they're so overexposed now.
They've gotten to the point where they're almost a parody of themselves.
Yeah, I mean they're entertaining, but not in 2 or 3 segments a show.
They're like the anti-Roman Reigns, where they're supposed to be getting booed as the heels, but they're getting the New Day Rocks chants, where Reigns is supposed to be getting over as the face, and he's getting booed.
Yeah, but I think there is the possibility for a backlash with the New Day. Like Abbey said, not every damn segment of the show needs them to be in it.
True. There is such a thing as overexposure and over-marketing and overhype.
And you can tell WWE is trying to milk that now with the amount of New Day merchandise that they're shoving down our throats with the unicorn horns and the t-shirts and the hoodies and the everything else. It's like, okay, we get it. You realize that New Day is hot, but now you're going to kill the golden goose.
They've even got a damn shirt for the trombone.
I know. Francesca does not need a t-shirt.
No.
So they are one of the reasons that I watch WWE, and one of the things it does, they're one of the few, like Abbey was saying, they've got AJ Styles. He's entertaining to watch. When something just completely out of the ordinary happens, like with Dean Ambrose, that's exciting to watch. Granted, he's been there for a while, but he's not been in the main event, and him kind of getting pushed into perhaps a main event role kind of shakes things up. That I like watching. Yeah, New Day, I said. Kevin Owens, I like watching him too, though watching him get buried just kind of sucks. I don't see what the whole point of that was with, God, who did he lose to on Raw?
Ziggy?
Yeah, he lost to the Zigzag, didn't he? To Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, what's the point? It's like I see a lot of upside in Kevin Owens, but not a lot in Ziggler, and it just seems like WWE is booking themselves into the ground at this point, and not even realizing that they're booking themselves into the ground.
I think Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn have a vision of what they want their company to be, and that's what they're going to do, no matter if the fans like it or not. I mean, you look back at Monday, they lost almost 1 million viewers from the first hour to the last.
And you wonder how many times that has to go on, and how many times they have to be running unopposed to any other major sporting event or television event and losing viewers before they realize, hey, we need to change something because fans are tuning in, but they're tuning out. They're changing the channel. They're turning the TV off. They're not watching after they see the crap that we're putting on that first hour.
Yeah, I mean, because how many times can you watch Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler? I mean, we're going to have to watch them up through Fastlane.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys that I just don't want to see in WWE that I think are kind of useless that they could get rid of, like The Miz, like Dolph Ziggler, like Ryback.
Oh, you mean Goldback, Ryberg, whatever he is this week, with his new Goldberg gear?
What's sad about this discussion to me is not that you don't make good points on both your parts. It's the fact that there are talented people who are completely useless because of the bass-backward way they're being booked. It's not as though Dolph Ziggler couldn't be something. He's been booked into oblivion through no fault of his own.
Oh, yeah, and I think the majority of people that are smart or that are fans or that are writers or whatever it is we respect the talent and we like the talent. We're just so sick of how they're utilized that it's just you don't care anymore.
I hate to say I'm starting to think that might happen to Kevin Owens, but I'm getting the feeling as time goes by that what made him special in 2015 when he came in and beat John Cena on his first night, they're going to erode all that away to the point where I'm going to start looking at Kevin Steen in WWE as being just another guy.
And I'm afraid that same type of thing is going to happen with AJ Styles and perhaps even Mauro Ranallo. Time will tell. I certainly hope not, and I mean, it's kind of at the threshold where it's going to soon be too late to turn things around for Kevin Owens, but he's still salvageable. But yeah, it's like, please don't give us the same bland, old, boring shit with AJ Styles, and please don't slowly but surely plant the seeds of turning Mauro Ranallo into a sports entertainment broadcaster.
Indeed. Well, why don't we try to end it on a more positive note than all the things that are wrong with WWE. Let's talk about Lucha Underground for a few minutes.
Yes. Let's talk about Lucha Underground. And can I go to the major spoiler first?
Please do.
Can I go to the big reveal that everybody already knows?
Please do. I put it on Facebook, so you can go right ahead.
At the very end of this week's Lucha Underground, we have an unknown mentor talking to the new luchador who is wearing the mask that Dragon Azteca handed down after he allegedly died at the end of last season. But at the very last moment, right before Lucha Underground goes off the air, this mentor is revealed to be none other than Rey Mysterio Jr.
Booyaka, booyaka, 619.
We've got Ray in the temple now, which is definitely going to be interesting because I'd like to see him work with a lot of the guys that he has been working with down in AAA, with some of the guys like Aerostar and Phoenix and some of the more high flyers. It's like I'm not really interested in seeing him against some of the rougher, tougher tumble guys like Pentagon Jr. at this point. But yeah, seeing him in there with some of the real high flyers, somebody that like Phoenix, who said Ray was his inspiration in getting into wrestling. Seeing, that type of matchup would be just incredible. So I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do with Rey Mysterio going forward in Lucha Underground.
I haven't read all of the Lucha Underground spoilers. I did see the ones for Ultima Lucha Dos, and I'm trying to put them out of my head so it'll be fresh when I see that show. But the one thing I like is the idea of Rey Mysterio as a mentor. I don't necessarily need to see him wrestle, but just him being there as part of the temple in some way, shape, or form, that's enough for me. He has enough of a star quality for me that just Rey Mysterio being there, whether he wrestles or not, adds to the show.
Like in the role that Conan had in season 1.
Like the role Vampiro had with Pentagon. The whatever shaping their future.
Like Vampiro with Pentagon or Conan with in season 1 with Prince Puma. Yeah, it's nice to have mentors, and it's nice that they have name value, but I mean what's really nice is when you see, these guys from Mexico that I've heard about, guys like Pentagon Jr. who look badass, who wrestle badass, who come into the ring and break people's arms, in quotation marks, after matches. Pentagon Jr. is awesome, and Pentagon Jr. in the main event teamed up with Prince Puma. They took on the Disciples of Death with Katrina in their corner, who oddly enough didn't go for the magic bag of rocks to somehow will the Disciples of Death back to life after they were killed, even though they're already dead. It doesn't make much sense to me here, but they actually did. Prince Puma and Pentagon Jr. ended up picking up the win in this one, where Prince Puma was going up to the top turnbuckle for his 630 senton. As he was doing that, Pentagon Jr. kind of slapped him on the thigh to tag himself in. Puma hits the 630 senton. Pentagon Jr. comes in, pins the Black Mask Disciple, gets the pinfall. Tensions kind of boil over after that. There's pushing and shoving. Pentagon gets the upper hand. He tries to snap Prince Puma's arm, but Prince Puma becomes the first person ever to escape an arm break attempt by Pentagon Jr. Puma gets up to his feet. He's ready to fight Pentagon Jr., but Pentagon Jr. bails. So that was the second to last thing that happened on the show. So the show really closed on a bang this week. We had Prince Puma and Pentagon Jr. forming a very tenuous alliance there as they teamed up to take on the Disciples of Death. And once they had defeated them, much as Pentagon Jr. had said would happen earlier in the night in a confrontation he had with Prince Puma while he was lifting weights in the locker room, that after they had finished off the Disciples of Death, Pentagon Jr. was turning his attention to Prince Puma. And he did, but Puma was able to hold his own. So it's good to see the guy with it's good to see Ricochet with a golden mask on holding his own against Pentagon Jr. there.
Indeed.
We had Marty. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to do my indeed. So go on.
Indeed. Marty the Moth Martinez was just super uber creepy. Talk about somebody's creepy uncle there, Abbey. We had him talking to Sexy Star, who was tied up to a chair and being held captive, and Marty the Moth Martinez talking about caterpillars and butterflies and his sister, and it was just creepy. I mean, the Wyatt family could learn something about how to cut a creepy promo from Marty the Moth Martinez. This was just like creepy stalker level. This was like, ugh.
Lovely.
We also had the introduction of the Darewolf, PJ Black, who took on the Mac in a very entertaining match. The Mac ended up picking up the victory with a sort of a springboarding stunner. As PJ Black was springboarding to give him a move, Mac caught him with a stunner and picked up a pinfall victory. So we did get the debut of a new luchador in the temple, and his name is the Darewolf, PJ Black. And we had Johnny Mundo taking on Killshot in the first match of the night. And this was an awesome match. There was one point in this match where Killshot just plants Mundo into the mat with a DDT, goes up to the top turnbuckle, hits a 450 splash. Johnny Mundo kicks out at 2.8. Holy shit. It was close. Mundo ends up winning this one when the referee is distracted. Mundo gives a mule kick low blow to Killshot. He comes off the rope with a flying spin kick to down. Killshot goes up, hits the end of the world, and picks up a pinfall victory. After the match, Johnny Mundo calls out Mil Muertes, the champion, who has been sitting in a throne with his arm in a sling since Pentagon Jr. broke it last week. Cage comes out through the crowd with a microphone and interrupts and says that he's at 100%, unlike the champion who's there on his throne just sitting there with his arm in a sling. Cage issues a challenge to Muertes when he's healed. Mundo's had enough of this. He tells Cage that Cage isn't even in his league. Cage gets into the ring. They start brawling. Chants from the crowd rain in of "Cage is gonna kill you." and Mundo backs out of the ring. He bails out, but he sneaks around through the crowd, comes up, ambushes Cage, only for Cage to come back and destroy Mundo before Mundo bails out of the ring. So that's pretty much what went on Lucha Underground on episode 2 of season 2. With the big highlight being Rey Mysterio Jr. revealed at the end as the mentor for the new Dragon Azteca.
Many things to look forward to on Lucha Underground in the weeks to come, with that action, with Rey Mysterio appearing, with things heating up in the temple as a whole. It's a dark and foreboding place in season 2, but that just makes it more fun to watch.
Indeed. We need to get Funaki on the show to do that here.
You know, I did interview Funaki once, and I forgot to ask him to do an Indeed. I know it wouldn't be the same because it wouldn't be dubbed over, but it would have been funny if he had.
That would be the greatest drop ever for Angry Marks. Just Indeed. Just interject that whenever you need to. Indeed.
Well, indeed, it's time to get some cheap plugs and wrap things up. So, Abby, your plugs, please.
As always, New Japan World, the best 999 yen you can spend in a month. Which is what, like $8, I think mine charged out at $8.41 this month.
Yep, it's gone up a little against the dollar, but it's pretty close to that.
And y'all can find me on Twitter at AbbeyBrook2121. I write for Top Rope Press and Ringside News and Pro Wrestling Authority, and somewhere, somehow, I'm always online being snarky and sarcastic. It's part of my charm.
And if you're up late at night, early in the morning, when New Japan World is running a live show, you can tweet with her about it.
Oh, yes.
Indeed, because that's what Jason does all the time.
Yep, stupid
That's
o'clock
what I do.
is
I
when
wake
we're
up
at our best.
Oh, stupid 30, as I like to call it.
It's beer o'clock somewhere. It's just stupid o'clock if you're up watching it at 4 in the morning, because who gets up to watch it at 4 in the morning? You guys do, but I love you for it.
Hardcore Japanese marks like us do.
I used to be able to do that. I can't hang with that anymore, especially if I have to cover fights on a Friday night. I can't get up at 4 in the morning the next day to watch.
It's like, especially after watching the crap that's on WWE, it just makes me proud to get up at 4:30 in the morning and watch something that's actually good and live and going on. And it's like, yes, this is why I'm a wrestling fan.
Well,
but I, too, will plug New Japan World.
That is one good thing about it, though, is it's on demand. So even though you could get up and watch it live at 4 in the morning, you don't have to. You can always watch it later.
That's true. Yeah, I think like the archive, the pay-per-views, at least going back a year, if not more. So yeah, if you want to go back and watch Wrestle Kingdom, hey, subscribe to New Japan World, and you can do that. You can watch Wrestle Kingdom 10. You can watch the upcoming New Beginning on the 11th and on the 14th. Check that out. NJPW World, I'll plug that. I also want to plug the worst movie that I've ever seen, and no, it's not Sunny Side Up. I saw a worse movie. I have seen a worse movie than Sunny Side Up, so Seth Raken, if you're out there, start taking down some notes. This movie is kind of infamous. There was kind of a war that went on between I Hate Everything and the creator of this. Movie is called Cool Cat Saves the Kids, and it is the worst acted, worst directed, worst edited movie I have ever seen. There's a scene where you can see the shadow of the cameraman walking across the room as he's walking with the camera. There's scenes where the dubbing is just kind of completely off, and you can tell the person inside the cat suit is shouting. And this is a kids movie, and at one point, Cool Cat, tells kids the importance of looking both ways before crossing the street, and then in the next scene, less than a minute later, when he goes to chase a bully who is across the street, he does not look both ways. This is the worst movie I have ever seen, and if you can find it, definitely find it. There's also some reviews of it on YouTube, so you can check that out on the I Hate Everything YouTube channel, also on the Your Movie Sucks YouTube channel. You can check those out. Yeah, you can get at me on Twitter at Great Sudoku. That's all I have to plug for this week.
What, no new recipes on veggiebending.wordpress.com?
Not yet. I've been making a lot of the same stuff. I've been making a lot of that lentil curry, that dal stuff. With like the world's third or fourth hottest pepper, the Trinidad Scorpion Butch Tea, which is that pepper that is so hot I only use it for my curries, Meghead. So yeah, if you want to see a nice curry recipe, there is one on veggiebending.blogspot.com or at .wordpress.com. Excuse me. I can't even remember my own blog site. It's been so long since I put a recipe up there. But yeah, one of these days I'll have to get to cooking something new and innovative and put that up on the site.
Well, you've just reminded me that I've got a curry in the deep freeze that I picked up in Trader Joe's, so I might just go pop that in the microwave to call it a night.
And throw some Red Dwarf on the TV. Yeah, plug Red Dwarf too. Go out and buy all whatever it is now, 10 seasons of Red Dwarf on DVD.
Yes, and maybe we can get Abbey hooked on the show.
I don't think so.
It's British humor. It's really good. You got to give it a try at least once, please.
Oh, Lord, I might have to look it up so next time I'm not so completely lost when y'all start going off on your tangents.
All right. That sounds like a deal. We'll just let you use it as a primer when we go on our segues. But speaking of segues, I will segue to the outro and say thank you for listening to AMP.